if you keep chasing someone who pulls away, who avoids commitments, who only gives you crumbs, I need you to hear this. This is not love. It's your nervous system in panic mode. The thing that you call connection is actually an addiction. Addiction to uncertainty, addiction to anxiety, addiction to this idea that this time around, he can meet your needs. And in this video, I'm going to explain why we sometimes operate this way and how we can break this cycle so you can finally be free from this pattern and this addiction. It's fascinating when you study love and attraction that in reality, all the driving forces are unconscious. And sometimes we end up in this emotional trap. We see or we get addicted because the person is actually pulling away. As I said in the intro, it's more around dysregulation. You label it as love, but it's actually a dysregulation. And when you're dysregulated, you obsess. And obsession creates anxiety because you're asking yourself the same question again and again without having the answer. So we discussed today, how can we change this nervous system response in order to have a secure response and to gain clarity? Because obviously this is not healthy for you. And by reproducing the same patterns again and again, you'll stay stuck. And I don't want you to stay stuck, right? So bear with me till the end of the video because I don't want you to stay stuck. I want you to make progress. I want you to find the right relationship. Maybe it's with this person who can prove us wrong. Maybe it's with someone else, but we need to break this pattern and it starts with the nervous system. So how do we create addiction? Addiction is this idea that our brain, they usually have a really hard time when there's a gap in the narrative, when there's unfinished business. We want to finish things the same way. If I were to speak with you and I would stop in the middle of a sentence, that's going to be very hard for you and it's going to be very painful and hopefully you're still watching. So the glitch is just this idea of, because they're creating some mystery. I need to make up a narrative of why they're doing this. That creates this addiction, right? And so this addiction in the physiological term is cortisol, high cortisol. I'm under stress. And whenever I have the resolution, I get a shot of dopamine. So whenever you play or you bet or whenever you are in this inconsistent dynamic, it's always like, I'm stressed because they are away. I'm stressed because I don't know what they're doing. High cortisol. And then I feel better. High shot of dopamine. And usually what creates the addiction is the spread between those two elements. And let me tell you a secret. The reason you sometimes discard good partners is because the spread between the highs and the lows are very small. And you label them as boring, where in reality they are secure. So that's why I think this video is very important if you feel that you have this pattern of always ending up with, men who never commit or women who are never ready to commit, etc., etc. It's usually because somehow you discarded these things. And there's something around your attachment system that makes you label the wrong partners as the right partners for you. And so attraction is usually familiarity. And the reason avoidance trigger this mechanism is because somehow this is familiar to you. This element of longing that you label as safety, this idea of like, I need to look up to something. The hot and cold, right? As I said, discuss the highs and the lows. Sometimes the distance. Sometimes the fact that you needed to earn attention and love from your parents, for example. So if, for example, you have a relationship with your parents where they were very busy and you were craving connection and you had to fight for attention because you have, other siblings or they were very busy, etc., you create this narrative of, if I want to be loved, I need to fight for it. I need to fight for attention, and that's the only thing I can do, right? And usually, then what happens is that you will meet people who are very independent, self-reliant, who unconsciously remember, help you to remember a familiarity around this dynamic with your parents who were self-reliant, independent, etc. There's various reasons or various scenarios on when you or how you would develop these sort of working models, but it's usually the logic, this is familiar. It's not healthy, it's familiar. And for most avoidants, there's this element or this idea of the phantom X. When you remove the pressure of the relationship, they start to idealize the partner, the relationship. And usually there's a delay in how they process things. So from the outside, you can perceive them as they moved on very quickly. They already forgot me, but there's a delay, right? So the point is, again, for them, the way they perceive safety is I can only sort of have my own time, my own space after a breakup or after they disappear. This is how they seek that element of safety. And therefore, what's left of the relationship is only the highs of the relationship. So that's why it's very important if, for example, your avoidant X is now coming back to you, is showing interest. Be aware that it could be only because of missing out or idealizing the relationship. And you'll have, and I'll explain in a second, you'll have to confront with your secure self, with the secure base, whether this person, this time around, can actually meet your needs. So what keeps you hooked? What keeps you hooked is that you're not a quitter, right? This person is important to me, and I'm not going to let it go. I love the challenge, right? I love the fact that I'm projecting. I'm an optimistic person. I love the fact that because I'm very intellectual and I see they have potential and I see how they can solve the problem, then I don't want to let it go, right? There's also this element of, as I said before, calm boredom. With him, with her, it's exciting because everything is novelty, excitement, the highs and the lows. These are the things you need to really, really debunk. It's really making, filtering in and out the patterns, the dynamic that triggers you and the ones that makes you feel at peace. If you don't feel at peace with your partner, he or she is not the right partner. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that all relationships will be like a fairy tale and every single relationship will have problems and challenges, etc., etc. And it's fundamentally different, very challenging to operate as a couple because it's two different people trying to work as a team in a committed relationship that is meant to last for a very long time. So obviously, there's going to be challenges. But the point is to find where you see yourself and how you can meet your needs. The thing is really about understanding where they're coming from, understanding your working models, understanding why you behave in a certain way. And it's usually not conscious, it's usually unconscious based on your attachment system. And this is how you can change this. You need to reframe what's going on. So usually, again, it's a pattern. It's something that you've been doing probably forever. And it's something that you need to change. Luckily, it's something you can change. Sometimes there are things we can't change. For instance, can you change your ex? Not really. You can influence them. You can create the conditions for a healthy relationship, but they have to change themselves. So the things you can change is how do you look at things? Naming things. You look at it as an obsession. To me, it's activation. So if it's an activation, let's deactivate it. Let's work at the body level, at the psyche level on how we can reframe this. Again, you think it's about them. It's not about them. It's about your need. It's about how you perceive a relationship. The point of all of this dynamic or how you can move forward and gain clarity, it's about soothing. The problem that you have if you have an anxious attachment style is that for you, whenever you're triggered, whenever you're in distress or anxious, the way you soothe yourself is through your partner. You create dynamics of codependency in the relationship or similar to codependency. And therefore, it's very hard for you to deal with an avoidant because they don't give you this. So the point of developing a secure reframe is figuring out that some of those needs can be met with yourself. And the relationship will meet also half of those needs. So again, there's not a formula of like half of it should be yours, half of it's understanding that some of them, and that's why I think it's very fascinating for me to help people after a breakup because they have no other option than do the work than really face their insecurities, because the only things they can control at this stage, at this point in time, is how can I reframe my own experience, my own insecurities, right? How can I meet my needs? Of course, I'm not saying we should live alone and we don't need anyone in our life. I do believe that we are social animals and relationships are extremely important. But romantic relationships is one type of relationship. Okay, so it's important again to distance yourself from things, to name those unmet needs, to understand that what you need is consistency, to understand that you need to reframe also this element of validation. What sort of validation do you need? Why do you need validation from your partner? Understand that what you need is also presence. Not only someone who comes and goes, disappears, not able to commit. Only after you have done this work of assessment, of reflection, then you can make sense of the relationship. Then you can really tackle this element of obsession. So in order to break the cycle, it starts, as I said, with the nervous system. It's not about closure. It's not about what they will tell you, what your friends will tell you. It's really about understanding. And again, the trigger is how you manage the trigger. So it could be about breath work, journaling. There are plenty of tools that I use with my clients. And there's not one tool that works for everyone. So my advice is to test different sort of tools, see what works with you. The one that will work will be the one where you are able to distance yourself and to rewrite the story. Now, in the context of you engaging with them, being in touch with that person, you have to mirror their pace. And you're going to tell me, yes, but I don't want to be in this type of relationship. Then you have your answer. What I usually do with my clients who are dealing with avoidance is we mirror the pace. Sometimes we break the ice, we take the lead just at the beginning, and then we follow their steps. But while we follow their steps, we don't forget exactly what we want. So we did the work that I described before around understanding your needs, working on nervous system regulation, and then we assess. And then we see whether I'm happy following their lead, whether they're actually taking accountability, whether you can rely on them, you can trust them. And that changes everything because you're not so much obsessed about them, because you can let go anytime you feel this is not right for me, right? And that safety is something they build with you. It's not something you can negotiate. It's not something, again, something you create together. And it's not something you create on your own or that you beg or negotiate. So it's about reframing this element. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. Otherwise, you're going to get always obsessed. And usually it's with the starting point of like, I'm not worthy of love. And because I'm not worthy of love, I need to earn. That's also one part of the reframe is working through your confidence, building self-efficacy. So there's an element of nervous system regulation, an element of cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing around what is addiction? What do I need? I would say, no, what is addiction? What is attraction? What do I need in relationship? And who am I as a partner? What can I provide? And what do I need in return? It's not selfish. It's about being self-centered and knowing more about yourself and not compromising on your needs. So if you want to repair the relationship, what draws them back is, again, being secure. Rather than chasing, you're the magnet, right? When you stop proving, when you start trying to manipulate, when they see, and that was the case for me with the woman I was with before my wife, I didn't play game. I didn't feel I had to play games. Everything was clear. The expectations were clear. I didn't feel I could hide, or I felt safe, not feeling to hide. When you create this dynamic and the person cares about you, he would want things to be different. He or she will believe that there's an alternative of what you had. Sometimes they don't see it. Sometimes they don't want to see it. They are stuck in their own ways of doing things. And this is where you can let go. Because you know and you're convinced that that's not right for you. I'm not addicted to this because I know consciously this time that the pattern, that the outcome, that the dynamic is not right for me. This is why, if you want a clarity, it's about calm, right? Clarity comes from contact not only, so it doesn't come from contact, but you need a bit of contact, but you need clarity. If you reach out and you're not clear, and you're not calm, and you're not at peace, and you're not secure in how you deal with things, you're never going to find any answers. Because you might pressure them, you might end up where you are right now, you might regret things that you say, etc., etc. So you start with the calm, then you can contact, but the contact only is useless. That's why when people ask me, should I break the contact? The question is not so much of when, but are you ready to break the contact? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel secure? Because I'm not going to lie, the next few weeks, if you break the contact today, will be painful because you will have, as I said, to follow their pace, to wait for them to feel ready. And it could take some time, not months, because I don't want you to be waiting for months for them to realize that they need to grow up, that they need to be accountable, right? So understand this element of like, you need to stop chasing inconsistency, chaos, people who brings you this element of familiarity, because you don't want. You're an adult now, you don't want, and you know right now that it's not right for you. If you're watching this and wondering if you have any chance of getting back with your ex, or even if it's the right thing to do, I've created a free assessment that gives you clarity. It's based on attachment science, and it will show you whether your ex is still emotionally engaged, if reconnection is possible, and how ready you are mentally and emotionally. What you have to do is just answer a few questions, and you'll get a personalized breakdown within 2 minutes. You can find the link of this assessment below in the description. I hope this video was helpful. Remember, take action, change the pattern. You will change your life. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. You can also subscribe and like if you want to support my work. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.